The story of a half-eaten pizza which helped authorities find a murderer who turns out to be an architect, a man who designed buildings for a living, who drew blueprints, measured load-bearing walls, and sat across from families talking about their dream homes. And on his personal computer, in files tucked between project proposals and client correspondence, he kept a different kind of blueprint entirely.
This is the story of Rex Heuermann and the architecture of a double life. For 11 years, the stretch of Long Island's Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach held a secret. In December 2010, police were searching for a missing woman when they found something else entirely. Remains, carefully concealed in burlap sacks in the brush along a remote stretch of road. Then more, and more. 4 young women, eventually identified as Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, and Maureen Brainerd Barnes. They ranged in age from 22 to 27. Each of them had been building a life. Melissa sent money home to her family in Buffalo. Megan had a daughter she was trying to get back to. Amber was loved by her neighborhood. Maureen had people who looked for her long before the police did. They were the Gilgo Four, and they were not alone. Subsequent searches across Long Island found more sets of human remains, 11 in total, scattered across remote land. Some in Gilgo, some in Manorville, some never fully identified. The investigation moved slowly. There were theories, there were persons of interest, but for more than a decade, no one was arrested. The case went cold. Investigators came and went. And somewhere on Long Island, the man who could answer every question was commuting into Manhattan, unlocking his office, and meeting with clients. Rex Heuermann was 59 when he was arrested. He had run his own architectural firm, RH Consultants, from a Midtown Manhattan office for years.
He lived in a large house in Massapequa Park. He had a wife and 2 children. He coached his kids' activities. He spoke at neighborhood meetings. By every visible measure, he was unremarkable in the best possible way. A professional, a family man, someone you would not look twice at on the Long Island Railroad. But something wasn't right, and it had been not right for a very long time.
In 2022, a newly assembled task force began a methodical re-examination of the Gilgo Beach case. They went back to the original witness accounts from around the time of the disappearances. One detail kept surfacing: a Chevrolet Avalanche, a specific vehicle type documented in witness descriptions near the time and location of one victim's last known movements. Investigators cross-referenced vehicle registrations. One name kept appearing: a 62-year-old architect from Long Island. That detail matters more than you might think, because what came next was not a dramatic confrontation. It was a pizza crust. Surveillance agents followed Heuermann for weeks. They documented his routines, his commute, his lunch breaks. One afternoon, he threw away trash outside his Manhattan office. In that trash was a discarded pizza crust. Agents retrieved it. DNA was extracted. And when that DNA was compared against genetic material found on the remains of one of the Gilgo Four, it was a match. Not a probable match, not a near match. A match. On July 13, 2023, Rex Heuermann was arrested outside that same Manhattan office. He had just ended another ordinary workday. Within hours, he was in handcuffs, charged with the loss of 4 lives. That number would later rise to 7. He maintained his innocence. For 2.5 years, through pre-trial hearings and media coverage, and his wife's divorce filing, and his daughter publicly saying she believed he was most likely responsible, he held the line. He denied it. Then, on April 8, 2026, he didn't.
In a Suffolk County courtroom, Rex Heuermann pleaded guilty to 7 counts, all 7. The families of the victims had been notified in advance. The sentence was life without the possibility of parole. He had been in custody since July 2023. He would never leave. But the guilty plea didn't answer the question that haunts this case most. The legal part is resolved. The behavioral part is not.
When investigators searched his home, they found files on his computer. Not just evidence of what he had done, but documentation of how. Written checklists, detailed protocols, instructions for limiting noise, methods for concealing evidence. He had also spent time searching online for news coverage of the very investigation into his own crimes. He was watching it, monitoring it. For years, he followed the investigation into himself the same way someone might follow a case they read about in the newspaper. What investigators found next was a man who didn't just commit these crimes. He studied them afterward. He organized them. He maintained the architecture of a secret life across nearly 3 decades with the same precision he brought to his professional work. While his wife and children were out of town, he would leave. And when they came back, so did he. The version of him they knew. The version that sat at the dinner table and attended school events and told clients what was structurally possible. So why? That is always the hardest question. And behavioral analysts who have studied cases like this point to something specific. It is rarely about rage. It is rarely about a single breaking point. It is about control. Men like Heuermann, high-functioning, professionally respected, outwardly stable, often carry a private experience of powerlessness that no one around them ever sees. The job, the family, the mortgage, the expectations. All of it building pressure inside a person who has learned to perform competence for the world. And then they find a context where the rules don't apply, where they are the only variable that matters.
The checklists were not the behavior of someone out of control. They were the behavior of someone who needed control more than anything else. That is what behavioral science keeps finding in cases like this. The violence is not the loss of control, it is the pursuit of it. This story was never really about a man who evaded capture for 11 years. It was about the red threads.
The Chevrolet Avalanche, noted once by a witness and buried in a decade-old report. The pizza crust, discarded without a second thought on a Thursday afternoon. The computer files, not hidden in encrypted folders, not destroyed, just sitting there on a machine in a family home. Details so ordinary they were invisible, until they weren't. Most people saw a professional architect who commuted to Manhattan and came home for dinner. The details told a different story. A story of compartmentalization so complete, so sustained, that it could only be understood in reverse, piece by piece, red thread by red thread. That's what we do here. We follow the red threads, one case at a time, one story at a time. If that's something you want to be a part of, subscribe to the Red Threads. The next story is already waiting.